Precept 1. Do good, avoid evil. According to Thomas Aquinas, the first precept of the natural law is, good is to be done and pursued, and evil is to be avoided. To do good and to avoid evil is a simple common notion, and therefore serves as a logical first principle. Often this simple maxim is easier said than done. In order to do good and avoid evil, one must know the difference between good and bad. As we have seen, goodness is inherent in the nature of things. An acorn is good in and of itself. A man is inherently good in and of himself. Unlike the acorn, human beings are self-aware and self-actualizing. Acorns can't experience happiness. Acorns can't be lazy. Acorns don't choose their fate. Men and women do. It is the ability to reason that separates humanity from other creatures. Therefore, our happiness by nature must include the development of our ability to reason. According to Aristotle, there are two types of virtue: dianoetic and moral. Dianoetic virtues are intellectual virtues relating to the reasoning functions and apprehension through intellect of rational principles. Moral virtues concern rational control of man's appetites, of passions, and desires. These two modes apply to the working of the human soul and intellect. Aristotle posits that there are two types of intellect, active and passive. The active, which makes all things, survives the body and is immortal, while the passive intellect, which becomes all things, is the seat of the irrational desires and passions and individuality. It is not immortal. The will stands in between the active and passive intellects and leads to the development of habits. Wisdom is the result of sound reason and knowledge of first causes and first principles, which, in turn, lead to the discovery and employment of moral virtues. In his Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle describes the moral life as a balanced life, free from excesses and deficiencies. The middle road, or the place of balance, is the life of virtue. Balance is lost when excesses or deficiencies present themselves as vices. Aristotle codified virtues and vices by way of actions and feelings in these terms. By way of example, if the virtue is courage, the deficiency is cowardice, and the excess is rashness. The virtue of temperance is flanked by the deficient vice of insensibility or senselessness, and the excessive vice of debauchery. The virtue of confidence is shadowed by the vices of paranoia and arrogance. The vices associated with truthfulness are lying and tactlessness. Someone who is loyal, if they become unbalanced, runs the risk of becoming either fickle or gullible. With the actions or feelings of pleasure and pain, the excess is self-indulgence and licentiousness. The deficiency is insensibility, and the virtuous middle ground is temperance. With the action or feeling of anger, the excess is being hot-tempered or being volatile. The deficiency is apathy, and the mean is patience and good temper. With the action of conversation, the excess is buffoonery, the deficiency is boorishness, and the mean is wittiness. With self-expression, the excess is boastfulness, the deficiency is mock modesty or understatement, and the mean is truthfulness, and so on. Men and women have persevered in the quest of goodness, and pressed beyond savagery throughout the ages has been by focusing attention on virtues and vices, qualities of moral excellence and goodness, and immoral corruption, wrongdoing, and wickedness. Throughout the ages, men and women have been faced with the choice between hope and despair, between love and jealousy, between faithfulness and infidelity, between justice and injustice, between temperance and wrath, between fortitude and inconsistency, between prudence and folly. And yet another ancient example of cultural codification of doing good and avoiding evil are the Ten Commandments, the Judeo-Christian Decalogue. The Ten Commandments are a religious example of the first precept of natural law. Acknowledge, obey, and pay homage to God. Honor your father and your mother. You shall not kill. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not covet your neighbor's goods. These commandments illustrate not only the precept to do good and avoid evil, but also the fourth precept, wherein Aquinas asserts that we are to live harmoniously in our communities as the human family.